Welcome to my sewing room. The theme for the show today is wedding on a budget, and I am so excited about the sewing ideas we're going to share with you. Now, some of you might say, well, Martha, just stop. There is no way you can do a wedding on a budget. And I will share with you that there certainly are things you can do to have a beautiful wedding and not spend a fortune. One of the most obvious things to do is to make your wonderful wedding dress. It will have a lot more memories anyway. Make your your bridesmaids dresses, your flower girl dresses, your junior bridesmaids, your little ring bearers outfits. I'll tell you, we're going to share a lot of ways that sewing can help you have a more beautiful and a less expensive wedding. There are other things you can do to cut the cost of a wedding also. Ask me. I know we're planning a wedding now. You can move to an afternoon wedding rather than an evening wedding. The refreshments do not have to be so elaborate. You can use a disc jockey rather than a band. And we're going to, at Joanna's wedding, she said, Mom, I don't even want an expensive band. I want a disc jockey who knows how to have everybody do the Macarena. Now, I'm going to have to learn how to do the Macarena, but seemingly that's the thing. The bunny hop, the hokey pokey, and 50s music. She said, well, Mom, everybody loves 50s music. We're going to have less expensive and less elaborate refreshments for an afternoon wedding. And the most exciting thing is that it's going to be just as wonderful and just as beautiful if you do cut cost than if you just go buy the most expensive of everything and pay no attention to the cost. I promise you we're going to share with you some wonderful cost-cutting techniques today. Now, I'm going to take you over to the technique boards, and we're going to start the very first of these wonderful budget ideas that will enable you to have a perfectly beautiful wedding without spending a fortune. This beautiful wedding dress I'm about to share with you, all the tricks how to make it, only costs $75. Now, the big secret is that also included the pattern. That's for the veil, the dress, the train. So you see, you can do a beautiful dress on a budget. The beautiful veil has a pretty, just a bridal satin bow on top with a little pearl button, illusion, not silk illusion. This would just be the regular illusion like you get in the bridal shops. We have a really pretty bolera, and something that would really be wonderful to do, which we did not do on this one, would be to put some silk ribbon embroidery or to hand bead some beads on. Now, coming on down, looking at this pretty skirt, this particular train is very easy to make and not very expensive either, and it comes around in the back and of course can be taken off at the reception. Now, I'm going to turn around. The back of this dress is really pretty too. Let me show you the treatments on the back. Of course, the pretty veil comes down. I'm going to bring it around though and show you that this is a bow with some nice little bow tails hanging down there. And see how pretty the train is that comes underneath that. And by the way, all of this is pinned on so it can come off at the reception. And let's put our bride back here now. It is very easy to make all of these items I shared with you. The first thing we're going to do is make that pretty veil. All right, if you would like to use a blusher that goes over the face, all you need to do is make two of these, one of them shorter. You simply trim the veil, cut the angle, whatever angle you would like, and run 2 rows of gathering across. I'm going to gather it up. If I want the blusher, put another row on and put some grosgrain ribbon on it to hold it. Now, this bow is very easy to make too. I start off with the bridal satin, and by the way, this is a layer of tulle to go underneath it, and the reason for that is it pads the bow and makes it smush up real well. I'll sew one straight seam, press the seam to the inside, then turn it right side out. Then, I've already done one side. I'll bring this side over. I'll bring this side over. Now, this is the back. And then I smush it up. I push and just make the little pleats. And now I have a really pretty bow. Here is my bow tie that I'm going to bring over and go on top of that bow. And then I will take this button and come in here and trim it on and sew it to the veil. Now, that's how easy it is to make that pretty veil. The next thing we're going to do is something very similar. We're going to make the bow that went on the back of the dress. It's made almost identical to the other bow. I have a layer of satin and then some tulle to go on top of it to give it good body. Then I do exactly the same thing I did before. I'm going to come in here, make the bow, pull it together, and bring the tie around. As you can see, I've stitched it with green thread so you can see it. You do not use green thread. All right, that's the bow. Now let's make the tails. I'm going to take this, the pattern, stitch down here, and then I'll stitch all the way down. I will turn it from the top. Oh, first of all, of course, come on over here. We're going to have to trim the seams. I pinked these. Turn it right side out. Here is the finished sash, and then I'm going to come up here and pleat a little bit, and I will have 2 of those that hang down beneath the bow. That is all there is to making that lovely bow that went on the back. Now the train is very simple too. I have some bridal lace, which has the scalloped edge that goes all the way down the side. Are you with me on that? Now, in order to make this into the train, I'm going to trim away part of the scalloped edge. Then I'm going to bring it over. I trace a line where I want the train to be, and I simply bring it over like this and zigzag it, and then I'm going to trim the bottom and trim the top. Now for the top of the train, once again, I just simply run 2 rows of gathering, the grosgrain ribbon. Then after I pull it up and pull the gathers in, then I stitch the grosgrain ribbon on top. Do not use green thread. And that's all there is to making the train. Now I'd like to share with you how easy it is to sew the train. I mean, we're talking a jiff. All right, I have my, I've cut off the side with the scallops on the side. I've traced off a line, so I will match it. Now then I'll come in here and match, and then I simply set my machine to zigzag. And you notice I'm not using a stabilizer because I really don't need one with this lace. I'm simply going to zigzag along here, matching those black lines. You can do it in a curve if you want to, or in a scallop if you want to, but it really isn't necessary. I'm going to stitch along there and stitch and stitch and stitch, and that's absolutely all there is to it. Stitch and stitch and stitch, and then after I finish stitching, let me just kind of pull this out here and show you. After I finish stitching, I will come in and trim the top right down to the zigzag, and then I will come underneath here and trim all of this away, and that way I will have my beautiful train that is completely finished. Now I thought I might show you one more little trick here. After you gather up your lace, you know, the lace at the top, I've got the 2 rows of gathering. Then I simply bring the grosgrain ribbon over, and I'll stitch it once and I will stitch it twice. I don't even need to trim back there. There's no reason to. I'll simply stitch it down, and then I'll put my bow on top of that. Now let's go over to the technique boards, and I would like to share with you a really pretty wedding garter that has something blue on it. You know, we have to have something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. I think a very exclusive garter like this one would cost about $50 at a bridal shop, a really nice bridal shop. We paid about $6 for the goods to go into this garter. I absolutely love the details on this garter. There's blue silk ribbon in the middle, there's a wonderful ecru on the outside, and oh, what I especially love is this beautiful hand-rolled blue ribbon in the middle, and these cute little streamers, even little streamers that come down. Now to me, that is a beautiful garter. Here is all there is to making that garter. First of all, you're going to purchase a piece of ribbon like this that has the ecru satin in the middle and then the little organdy or organza looking on the outside. Then I take a piece of blue silk ribbon, put it right in the middle, and you can actually see there I have stitched up and down with a straight stitch on both sides of the blue ribbon. Now, needless to say, we're going to have some elastic. After that's all stitched down, I'm going to have to put some elastic and run it all the way down. Now, right over here, if you will watch and just see what has happened, I'm going to stretch it out a little bit to show you what it looks like from the back, and the elastic has been slipped through, and that's what it looks like from the back. And then I can flip it over to let you see what the front looks like also. This little rolled rose, we've shown you on several other TV shows, but let me just take it off and show you a little bit about how this rolled rose works. The rose part, I'm going to fold a piece over and then roll it down on the bottom until that fold is gone, and then I'll roll it all the way around, and then I'll come in here, fold another piece down, and roll it again. Now, this is what the final rose part looks like, except I did this just for demonstration purposes. When you're really making this rose, we're going to have a long piece of ribbon that extends down. And this is more like what it's really going to look like. I have a piece of buckram in case you wondered what this netting behind here was. That is some buckram to sew it to so it would be good and stiff. Okay, here's my rows that I've rolled in here. That's the center part. Now I have taken a gathering thread all the way down the edge of this ribbon. So I'm going to get one of these gathering threads and always pull from the bobbin thread. That's the easiest one to pull when you're gathering. And I will gather it up, slipping those gathers up on this long tail. Alrighty, here we go. I'll slip them all the way up. Here we go. All right, I've slipped them all the way up, and then I will begin to wrap those gathers around, and therefore my rows will be completed. Now, it isn't completed until I stitch it down. And then I'll put on the little curly cues here, and then the little tails that stitch on, I will stitch those on, and we have a really wonderful garter. Next, let's move to a wonderful wedding type of home decoration. When I bought this beautiful antique tablecloth, and it's a very small tablecloth, so we're calling it a table topper, at an antique mall in London, I thought, oh, this would be so beautiful to go underneath a bride's book. Here is the original antique cloth, which I purchased in London. It has lots of really pretty details, including mitering at the corners and a beautiful strip that goes down the middle. Now for you, for this television show today, we have recreated this in wonderful brand new laces, which are actually mostly white. Now this one is a bridal white, and assuming that I use all cotton fabrics, such as even the netting being cotton, I can tea dye this or coffee dye it and make it off-white too. But as you can see, it is just as beautiful, or even maybe more so, than the original antique one. And it's really very easy to make. One of the first techniques, you know what, I've dropped my glasses in the floor here, hang on a minute. One of the first techniques that we've done is to zigzag the pieces of lace together, just butted them in zigzag. Now, when I'm going to attach it to this piece of English lace netting, which goes on the top, I'm simply going to leave a little bit of a seam allowance, maybe 1/4 of an inch, bring the lace over that and zigzag it down. Now this miter might look a little bit difficult to do, but let me show you, it really isn't difficult to do. In order to make a lace miter out of wide lace, I simply trace onto the laces a 45-degree angle that bisects. Then I'm going to fold the lace back on itself, all the way over. See, back on itself until it lines up at the bottom. Then I'm going to remove this pin right here, pin it through 2 layers, and look what happens. A perfect miter is folded in. See how easy that is? Now, I'm going to share with you how easy it is to butt 2 pieces of lace together in zigzag. This is what I call beginning French sewing by machine. I have 2 pieces of lace, each with a straight side. I have set my machine on a zigzag. I have the width 3 and the length 1. However, there's no magic width and length. And then I'm just going to butt those 2 pieces of lace together and zigzag, and sometimes I'm going to go pretty fast. Okay, let me show you about how fast I usually go. Now when I usually go very fast like I'm going now, sometimes I leave a little hole, but I'm not going to call it a hole. Now let me see if I can on purpose come out here and leave a little hole in the laces. In other words, a place where I really didn't catch it. Now then I'm going to come back and catch that little hole and continue zigzagging along. Now then I'm going to trim it. I've got to go back. When I get back here, I've gone back and discovered that I have a hole. All right, I'm just going to trim it, and then I'm going to go back in, go right on top of where that little hole is, and simply zigzag one more time, catching the hole. And by the way, now you may know if you've read any of my books that we don't call these holes, we call these holidays. Very easy sewing is what French sewing by machine is all about. Next, we have a beautiful craft for you that we're calling an invitation tray. This is a beautiful souvenir for any bride's wedding. The silver tray used on the background is just an old tray, and actually the bottom is kind of gooky, you know, when you can't really use them anymore, but this is the perfect use for one of those trays. It has the wedding invitation, a beautifully addressed envelope, all kinds of little goodies glued down on it, including the reception card. Now you can start with any kind of a tray. As a matter of fact, on this one it's kind of a worn out brass tray, but that's going to be beautiful too. Here we've gathered lace to go around the edges, which I'm going to just simply glue it down. Now some of you might be saying, well, how do you gather that lace? It looks like you gathered it really nicely. Well, here's how you do it. This is French lace, and that's the only kind that has a gathering thread built in. I'm going to go and pull up the heading of the lace. There are 4 or 5 little gathering threads built in. Now I have the gathering thread pulled out of the lace, and guess what? I'm just going to pull, and that lace is going to gather up. Now that's how easy it is to gather lace. Okay, then I'm going to put the card there. Then I'm going to come in here with the actual invitation, maybe pull a little bit of lace underneath there, and then I'll put the reception card here, and I have roses. And you know what else I thought would be pretty? You know, the garter we made a few minutes ago. I think we'll kind of come in here and maybe glue the garter down also somewhere in this arrangement. You get the idea. You can just simply put all of the goodies, and it really just has scraps and dried flowers and even a little strand of pearls. Here's the little strand of pearls that you can come in here and lay around if you would like to. Next, I have a really beautiful doll dress for you. My doll Joanna is ready to attend the wedding, and she is wearing a beautiful dress with not one but 2 circular skirts. To start up at the top, this is a beautiful little entredeux and gathered lace finish with silk ribbon embroidery by hand, a little rosebud, and a little gathered netting collar. Look at the sleeve. It is so sweet. It has an overlay of netting with the silk ribbon rosebud and gathered lace, and the same thing on the sleeves. Now coming down her skirt, which is, let me slip my hand up here and show you. Its netting is the first layer, and then the pink broadcloth is the second layer. Do you see how her gathered lace is on the bottom of the netting as well as the broadcloth? And these wonderful little silk ribbon roses all the way around the dress. This is really very easy to make, and I'm going to show you step by step. First of all, I have gathered the laces, and I've put them on top of the first layer of skirt. Now then, I'm simply going to zigzag the gathered laces down. You might see I'm using this wooden shish kebab stick to hold my laces in place as I zigzag them down right on top of the fabric. Later on, I'm going to go in there and trim it away underneath. I've got to have the stability, though. Of course, you don't sew over pins, you pull that out. Now then, let me go over and just show you one step at a time. After that is finished, I have zigzagged all the way around here. Then it is going to be necessary, let me show you underneath here. See, I still have that skirt attached. So it's going to be necessary to go underneath and to trim away that excess pink skirt. After it is trimmed away, it will simply look like this. Pretty gathered lace on the bottom of a pretty skirt. I'll do the same thing on the netting layer, which is on the top. I'll simply gather the laces, zigzag them down, and then go up underneath and trim away if you would like to. You don't have to trim when it's the netting layer. Now then, I'm going to do one more little thing. I'm going to go in on the netting layer. I'm going to run a little gathering here and little gathering here to make those little puffs. All right, let me lay it out. That is what the gores of the skirt will look like. I'm going to do the same thing on the sleeve. I have 2 layers on the sleeve, a netting layer and then a regular layer of fabric, so it'll be really the same technique on the sleeve too. Now, how do you make those wonderful silk ribbon roses? They are so easy to do. I have all my pieces here one step at a time. I think I'll remove this. First of all, I draw off a spider web. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows, and I don't draw it with a blue pen for obvious reasons, but I'll draw it off on the fabric. Next, I'm going to take regular embroidery floss, not silk ribbon, but regular embroidery floss, and simply make a stitch here and here around on all of those little lines. All right, I'm going to come here out on the very end and simply pull it through. That's going to be the base of this rose to hold the stitching. The next layer, and I will work in a hoop on this one, I'm going to take my silk ribbon using a tapestry needle which has a blunt end, and I'm going to go over and under. See, I have stitched under here. All right, on this one I'm going to go over, and I'll go under the next one, and I'll pull the silk ribbon. Now when you're working with silk ribbon, don't make it too tight because the beauty of the silk ribbon is it kind of crunches around and looks really pretty. All right, I went under there, so I'm going to go over this one and under the next one. I'll pull it around, pull it through, straighten it out a little bit, and move all the way around. Now after I have gone over and under several times, my rose will look like this, and I can continue around making that rose as big as I want it to. As a matter of fact, we have a bigger than life rose we've made right here, which we took it all the way out and out and out. That is how easy it is to make the silk ribbon roses. Next, we have an antique pillow with an actual antique technique I'm going to share with you called ruching. I bought this beautiful little pillow, except really it isn't a pillow, it's a pincushion, in Paris at a very elegant antique store. It is hand embroidered on organdy. There's a little bit of French lace around the edge, but this is the technique I want you to look at right here. This is called ruching, and it's very easy to do with ribbons, and you see there's a ruching layer right there, and then this is really a cute little ruffle. There's a satin ruffle underneath and hand embroidered organdy on top. Now ruching is easy to do, so I'd like to share with you how to do it in case you'd like to make some of that pretty French ruching. First of all, I trace off even spaces on my ribbon, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then alternated on the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next, I draw the lines connecting those down, up, kind of a zigzag. And then, as you can see, with a needle and thread by hand, I have stitched along those zigzags. Now here it is on a little bit bigger one, and I'm going to show you how exactly what happens when you pull that thread which we have stitched. All right, I'm going to pull the thread and watch what happens. The ruching begins. You see it kind of curls, makes a really pretty curl in the ribbon, I think. Makes those little curls. Now, let me show you the final product without white ribbon and purple stitching. Here is a lovely ruching and a reasonably narrow ribbon in a dark purple. Here is one in a reasonably narrow ribbon in a blue. This one is what I call twinkle toes ribbon because it sparkles a little bit. And this one is probably the easiest to see because it's a wider ribbon in pink. See, it just almost looks like ocean waves going along there. Ruching is really a lovely technique. And now I'd like to invite you up to my attic to see something really wonderful. Oh, do I have something exciting for you today. The blouse I have chosen for you, I have named Swiss Crescent Blouse. Now there are two reasons I named it Swiss Crescent Blouse. First of all, it is Swiss batiste, and the embroideries are Swiss, and secondly, they're shaped like crescents. This blouse is turn of the century, I would imagine 1890 to 1900. It has this wonderful high collar, and you know, it even has the stays that are still in the collar. Oh, I'm so glad I don't have to wear collars that choke my neck like that, but they are beautiful. The crescents I was referring to, the Swiss crescents, are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 crescents running down each side, simply stitched in. And then look at the beautiful details, the tucks. Do you see how the tucks begin a little higher, move down in the middle, and then go up? Those are called release tucks. Now on the back, there are just as many wonderful details as there are on the front. As a matter of fact, it's very, very similar, except on the back there are 1, 2, 3 crescents on each side with the beautiful insertion lace. It almost looks like crochet. It isn't, but it almost looks like crochet that comes down around. Now the buttons, and there are 2 little buttons missing here, and I didn't replace them because I don't have matching buttons, although I could. The buttons and buttonholes are covered. I call this a covered placket closure, and the buttons go all the way down the back, as do the pin tucks that go all the way down the back. Now there is also an interesting little loop right here, and there's several others around in the back, and that was used to hook the skirt into the blouse so the blouse would not come loose and pull out of the skirt. Thank you so much for joining me in my sewing room today. I hope I'll see you next time.